At long last, we've reached the final of my Best of Next Fest October 2024 series. If you want to see like one final ultra recap of my absolute top games of the event, let me know. With that said, this will be the final part of the demos we played on stream, plus a little bit of extra. We are starting things off with Observe. We played a demo to this one about a year or so ago, but they're back with a new exclusive Next Fest demo, as well as kind of a restructuring of the level design. The same trippy puzzle design remains. You are trapped in a maze and it's up to you, yourself, you, and other versions of you in order to get out. The logic here is that once you complete a room, your actions are recorded in said room. It starts simple enough at first, but then you need to help future versions of yourself to open up their respective doors while still keeping with the original solution that you used. And then suddenly this turns into a very topsy-twisty kind of combination of time syncing and figuring out the exact logic that you need in order to move things along. So this one is definitely on the challenging side. And it can feel a little bit tricky at spots because it's hard to tell sometimes what kind of memories or which areas you need to go to in order to solve some of the more trippier puzzles. And the game does get quite trippy. The very first area is just simply kind of a linear set of rooms, but soon it opens up multiple routes and multiple logics that you'll need to discover. This one is definitely not going to be for someone who's looking for a casual or lighthearted puzzle game. But if you're in the mood for a brain melter, one that can operate on multiple layers of brain meltiness, then definitely give this one a try. We go from brain melty to handbraking with AI Limit. This is a Souls-like that the aesthetic and art remind me a little bit of Code Vein. It is the future and you once again have amnesia. In order to reclaim your memories and save the world, you must hack and slash and of course, get good. The kind of unique element of AI Limit is in the use of the sync gauge. That is the meter that appears when you're in combat. How this works is attacking enemies will raise your sync gauge, getting hit by them will reduce it. When it gets above 80%, your attacks will do more damage, and similar to that of Code Vein and kind of the later Souls-likes, you can equip different special abilities as well as spells to your character, which they are funded or powered up by your sync meter. You also get a parry that also consumes sync. Now, the risk of course is that if you run out of sync, your character becomes weakened and you'll take more damage. So you'll need to kind of figure out when to use sync and when to hold back, all the while trying to dodge, slash, and get those special attacks in. While the game started off well, my big issue with this one is how kind of the more finer points of combat didn't really work for me. This is again one of those Souls-likes where light attacks do not cause hit stun on a lot of enemies. So that means for heavier enemies, you have to pretty much rely on your kind of special heavy attack in order to actually do any stagger, which kind of greatly reduces combat. I had a hard time getting the parry to work. It is very specific in terms of the timing. And while you can kind of like stop an enemy before they go through with it if you parry it, in order to actually get them into a stun state to get a punish, you need to time it perfectly. The game also features once again the return of the annoying jump, where you have to press L3 while you're running, and it's a super small hop, so expect to undershoot your jumps quite a bit. I like kind of what I saw in terms of equipping the different gear and the upgrade system, but this one I think is going to need some fine tuning for the combat, because I can see this becoming either very annoying or very easy, depending upon which build you go for, and that's not what you want to see in a Souls-like. But again, as with some of the other action games we play during Next Fest, there is always the chance that things can be improved. So I would keep an eye on this one if you're looking for another Souls-like to dive into and get good with. We now switch to Creatures of War. This is a 2D survival horror game. You have been sent to a mysterious island to investigate, and when you arrive, the backup team is dead, everyone is gone and presumed dead, and dinosaurs and other creatures roam the land. So, you are going to have to shoot your way through this world of survival horror. Our gameplay here is definitely, well, it describes itself as survival horror. This does feel more like action horror, as you must run, shoot, dodge, and even go in for quick kills on enemies throughout the area. You'll pick up a number of items, find secrets, and of course be able to purchase things from a mysterious character who resides in a train that also acts as kind of your fast travel. This one feels more, despite trying to be over the top and serious, feels more like tongue-in-cheek in its approach. If I had any real issue with it, I didn't like how the camera kind of doesn't give you proper view when you're running. It kind of keeps you on the far edge of the screen, which, as we talk about with platformers, is not the best for seeing things that are coming up. This one, again, if you're looking for like a super challenging, super scary game, it's probably not going to do it for you. But if you're looking for a mix of survival horror and a bit of some good old dino fun, I would at least give this one a check and see if it works for you. We switch from horror to some good old-fashioned fun with Nice to Yeet You. This is a kind of arcade action game for multiple players. It's your job to yeet your opponent out of the arena by bouncing into them, and of course having a shield to provide some counter moves. This one at the moment is definitely focused more on multiplayer than single player content, as the AI is just okay at it. The basics are, well, quite there. You'll bounce, you'll try to block, and try to knock your opponent out any which way you can. I like this one. It's going to be more on the casual side, but still, if you have a friend or two and you're looking for another kind of party-based game to play, I would at least give this one a try. We now go to Pipkin. This is an RPG that feels like a mix of Pokemon meets Earthbound. You are exploring the world, trying to uncover its mysteries, gotta catch all those Pipkin, and finding one strange individual after another. The game is trying to go big, with having multiple kinds of elemental types and attacks for each one of your characters. You'll have to catch your Pipkin out in the field to then do battle with them. Now, you'll be fighting alongside them, and you'll need to kind of figure out how to best use your character's abilities, as whatever element you pick will determine what your own abilities are and your starting Pipkin. Now, there is a lot in terms of skills in this game. The store page boasts, I think, over 200 different skills, with many of them having synergies with different Pipkin types, and so on and so forth. I found combat to be a touch on the slow side when I played it, but I did kind of enjoy what I was seeing. I feel like the demo may not be the best representation of this because it starts everyone off at a super high level, and then you're just trying to figure out what all these different skills and ailments and so on are doing. This one is definitely for someone who's already in the Pokemon gotta catch them all kind of mindset, and if you are looking for an indie take on that, then I would give this one a try. We have another kind of retro-inspired RPG with Aether Singularity. We now go to the PlayStation 1 era for a game that pays homage to the likes of Parasite Eve. You exist in a world where demons have entered thanks to the Aethernet, and you must solve cases, bust demons, and try to survive. Our combat kind of follows the same MO of Parasite Eve with a few twists. As you shoot enemies, you'll build up your mana or your kind of special meter that you can charge for your bullets or use for spell casting. You do have a dodge in this one, and you will need to make use of it, as enemies are quite fast and good at tracking you. The demo was quite short, with the game boasts having multiple routes, as well as bonus challenges, almost like Metal Gear Solid's like VR training mode. I like what I was seeing in this one, and I'm kind of curious to see where it will go in the finished version. So if you have fond memories of Parasite Eve, I would give this one a try. We now go to Eclipse. This is a dungeon crawler meets deck builder. where you are exploring a temple trying to bring peace to the cosmos. Well, unfortunately, creatures are going to get in your way that you must duel in order to defeat them. The unique element of Dual Eclipse is in its card-based design. This is not a normal deck builder where you'll build up your deck of various special cards and stuff along those lines. You essentially get into a battle of who has the highest card. How this one works is that the player or the character that goes first picks the element, and then you must play a card that's higher than it in order to win. However, if you keep playing all your high cards and burn through them, you can easily run out of them and then the enemy takes over. If you tie, you build up parry, and parry increases the damage to whoever breaks through first, so there is a risk reward here. Now, it's not even that quite simple with the high-low, as the phase of the sky determines whether you're playing a game of high card wins or low card wins when it's an eclipse. And you'll also be able to get cards or properties on your cards that can shift what time of day it is. So you can kind of bait your opponent into playing all their high cards and then just swap it and say, oh no, the low card wins. You'll explore the areas in between combat looking for health upgrades, as well as any clues, keys, and whatnot that you need to proceed. I'm not quite sure if the dungeon crawling aspect works in this one, as I didn't see anything advanced about. You can't get a first strike by bumping into an enemy. I didn't find any major rewards out of it, but the card system does intrigue me. And I am curious to see where they're going to go with all this. Will there be cards that kind of break the normal rules, like a Fire Ice card, Nature Thunder, etc, etc? So this one does have some promise for those of you looking for a more constrained deck builder with its own unique take on things. And now we go to a Geomancer. This is a multiplayer, almost like deck builder meets Worms style game. You'll build your deck out collection of all manner of strange abilities, and then you'll get into combat. I believe it can be 1v1 or some teams. Unfortunately, the footage you're seeing is played basically just by myself, so it's me versus me here. But you'll get different spells along with different elements, and each element has its own way of doing damage, and also how it will be used. You can launch fireballs, you can set up explosions, teleport around, and you can also walk normally provided you have mana for it. This one, again, as a single player game, probably not going to cut, at least from the version that I played, but it does look promising as a multiplayer experience. Again, unfortunately with the footage that I'm showing you, we can't really do too much of that here, but if you are looking for another multiplayer game to enjoy, I would definitely check this one out. We now have Chipwits. This is a programming puzzle game, much like some of the ones that we've played in the past, where you must set up a series of events and actions for your robot in order to complete the challenge of the level. As the game goes on, you'll acquire more chips, more logic you'll need to figure out, and of course the puzzles get more challenging. It reminds me a little bit of something like Human Resource Machine, in that this is not a direct programming game. You'll have to make use of programming logic, but it's kept very simple as kind of an introductory level for people wanting to learn that. There's of course a full-on level editor, and I'm sure the challenges get more and more twisty as things go on. My main issue that I have with this is that I found the kind of programming interface to be a little bit cumbersome in spots. If I want to take a section of code and just copy that and paste it somewhere else, the game was not allowing me to do that, or at least not letting me do it easily. If they improve the UI of this one, this could be another really solid entry level or intro to learning programming logic for everyone to enjoy. Now, if you're looking for some more advanced puzzle logic, we turn to Noiramore Academy. On a strange planet inhabited by creatures who can use magic, you are a child in a prestigious university or academy. But when one of the teachers gets kidnapped, you are drawn into a mystery full of puzzles, intrigue, and even more puzzles to solve. While the game is played in third person, this is definitely an old school adventure game through and through, as you'll need to deduce the various puzzles of varying shapes, sizes, and of course complexities, all while navigating the school itself. I found the puzzles to be a little bit tricky. The game kind of revolves around kind of learning the logic of the world, but not really, I think, giving you like a good idea of what that logic is at first. This one I would say is for someone who's looking for more of an old school adventure experience, where again, the puzzles are devious and there are going to be some brain scratchers all around. But I do like the aesthetic and kind of the look of this one, and I am interested again to see like where it will lead in the finished version. So if you don't mind a bunch of challenging puzzles, then give this one a go. We now go to another adventure game, but this time with a lot more punching to go with it. And this is Neon Blood, a cyberpunk style noir game. It is the far future, and a murder has happened and you're going to be caught up in a massive conspiracy, and you must puzzle solve and fight your way out of in order to break this case. The demo was a bit on the short side, and I'm not quite sure kind of like where the balance is going to be in terms of combat to puzzle solving. You'll explore I really love like the kind of pixel art aesthetic and the animation they use in this one world, and while you will be looking for items and solving puzzles along those lines, sometimes you're going to get into combat, and then the game turns into a turn-based RPG where you'll use different abilities to try and deal with your opponents. I don't know, however, if there will be any kind of like progression to the combat system. Will you unlock different abilities? Will you get gear, etc, etc? So it's kind of hard to tell at the moment, like, again, where this game is going to go in the finished version, but the demo did show some promise. So if you like your adventure games with a little bit more action to them, then I would at least give this one a try and keep an eye out for the finished release. We are now down to our final game of our showcase with Neon Express. This is a kind of story-driven, like almost like cyberpunk taxi cab confession. You have been rushed in to replace a taxi cab driver in a cyberpunk city after some mysterious circumstance, and you're going to make do one day and one passenger at a time. This is very low stakes. You can fly as fast as you want, crash into anything you want, and you will be fine. This is more about you interacting with the various people of the city, learning their story, and seeing what is going on throughout the place. I like kind of the stories and the various characters we are meeting, but again, if you're looking for a very high stakes game or like cyberpunk crazy taxi, this is not going to be that title. So if you're in the mood for a little story and driving, I would give this one a try. And with that, we are finally done. As I said at the start, you want me to have one more like mega showcase of my absolute favorites from the event, let me know. But otherwise, that is going to do it. You'll find the links to these games down below. Check out the other games that I enjoyed from Next Fest 2024, and I'm sure we'll be back with more showcases in the future. But that is going to do it. So thank you so much for watching, especially if you watched every part of this showcase. And with that, I'm going to finally stop playing indie games for at least a little while. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.